Welcome back to VibeVision, where we dive deep into some of the most iconic and underrated cars in automotive history. Today we're taking a closer look at a machine that defined Oldsmobile's approach to style, comfort, and performance in the late 1980s, the 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon with the T-Top option. This car represents a fascinating era in American automotive design, blending traditional muscle car cues with the evolving sensibilities of the 80s. So let's break down what made the '87 Cutlass Salon T-Top a standout. The first thing that catches your attention is the exterior design. The 1987 Cutlass carried that squared-off, boxy styling that was iconic of GM's G-body platform. Unlike the curvier designs that came later, this generation of Cutlass embraced straight lines, sharp edges, and clean proportions that gave it a presence both on the street and in the driveway. The salon trim in particular leaned toward a balance between sporty and upscale. You could see this in the grille treatment, the chrome detailing, and the body lines that were subtly muscular without being over the top. Now, the T-top roof is what really elevates this car's appeal. In an era when T-tops were considered the ultimate way to have open-air fun without fully committing to a convertible, Oldsmobile made sure the Cutlass Salon offered that option for drivers who wanted something special. Sliding those glass panels out transformed the car's personality, letting the sunshine in and giving it a more youthful, sporty vibe. It also made the car stand out at cruise nights and weekend meets. Today, collectors and enthusiasts alike consider the T-top versions of these cars especially desirable because they capture the spirit of 80s personalization. Looking closer, the front fascia featured dual rectangular headlights framed by a modest but stylish grille. Unlike earlier muscle cars that screamed aggression, the '87 Cutlass carried a confident but more reserved look. The bumpers were integrated neatly, and with chrome accents, it had a classy, almost timeless appearance. On the sides, the straight body panels gave off a solid, planted feel. Depending on the trim package, you could find pinstriping, two-tone paint options, and Oldsmobile badging that added flair without being too flashy. Out back, the rear carried tall vertical taillights that were quintessentially Oldsmobile. The trunk lid was simple but effective, offering both practicality and style. Many enthusiasts loved how the rear of the Cutlass looked understated but unmistakably American. Even the stance of the car, riding on 14 or 15-inch wheels depending on options, added to its confident character. The rally-style wheels and white letter tires were especially popular with owners who wanted a sportier edge. Performance-wise, the 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon wasn't about raw tire shredding muscle in its standard form, but it had a solid selection of engines that made it versatile. The base versions came with a 3.8-liter V6, which offered decent power and smooth operation for daily driving. For buyers who wanted more grunt, Oldsmobile also offered a 5.0-liter V8. Though not a high-performance engine by muscle car standards, it provided plenty of torque and that classic V8 feel that enthusiasts loved. This was an era when horsepower numbers weren't as outrageous as the late 60s or early 70s, but the Cutlass Salon still managed to deliver respectable performance. The V8 versions, when paired with the automatic transmission, gave you a relaxed but satisfying driving experience. Acceleration wasn't blistering, but it had that unmistakable rumble and steady pull that made highway cruising enjoyable. For drivers in the late 80s, this was the kind of car that blended comfort with just enough muscle to keep things interesting. The handling was another area where the G-body platform shined. With rear-wheel drive, the Cutlass Salon maintained that traditional American layout that enthusiasts appreciated. The suspension leaned more toward comfort, soaking up bumps and making long drives pleasant, but it still handled well enough to carve through city streets and country roads with confidence. Compared to some of its boxier competition, the Cutlass had a certain finesse to its driving dynamics. It wasn't a sports car, but it was balanced enough to give drivers a sense of control and engagement. Another performance-related feature worth mentioning is the braking system, which was reliable for the time. Disc brakes up front and drums in the rear were standard, and while that might sound dated today, in the 80s this setup was typical and worked well. Combined with power steering and power brakes, the Cutlass Salon was an easy car to live with on a daily basis. It felt substantial behind the wheel without being difficult to maneuver, and that's part of why these cars were so popular. Moving. Inside, the interior of the 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon reflected the brand's focus on comfort and a touch of luxury. Opening the door, you were greeted with wide, supportive seats that could be had in cloth or plush velour upholstery. Oldsmobile interiors of this era were known for being roomy, and the Cutlass was no exception. The front bench seat was common, though bucket seats with a center console were available and added to the sporty feel. The dashboard was straightforward, with square gauges and controls laid out for practicality. It wasn't futuristic, but it was functional and easy to use. What really stood out in the interior was the sense of space and comfort. This was a car you could easily daily drive, take on long road trips, or simply enjoy cruising with the T-Tops removed. The trunk space was generous, making it practical as well. Small details like wood grain trim, padded armrests, and Oldsmobile badging on the steering wheel reminded you that this was a step above some of the more basic GM siblings. By 1987, the Cutlass name had built a strong reputation for being reliable, stylish, and versatile. The Salon T-Top in particular represented a perfect blend of sporty fun and traditional Oldsmobile comfort. For buyers back then, it was a car that fit a wide range of lifestyles, from young drivers who wanted something cool and customizable, to older drivers who appreciated its comfortable ride and timeless design. Today, the 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon T-Top holds a special place in the hearts of enthusiasts and collectors. It symbolizes the final era of the classic rear-wheel drive Cutlass before the model transitioned into front-wheel drive in the late 80s and early 90s. That makes this version one of the last true old-school Cutlasses, and the T-Top models are especially prized for their rarity and nostalgic appeal. The car is also highly customizable, and many have been turned into beautiful restorations, resto mods, or even drag racing machines, thanks to the versatility of the G-body platform. But even in stock form, it remains a stylish, comfortable cruiser that carries the heritage of Oldsmobile proudly. In the end, the 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon T-Top is more than just a car from the 80s. It's a reminder of a time when style, comfort, and a touch of performance could come together in one package. It's a car that captured the essence of Oldsmobile's brand identity and still turns heads today, decades later. This has been VibeVision, bringing you closer to the stories behind the classics. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon T-Top, make sure to stick around for more reviews, history, and explorations of the cars that shaped our automotive world.